Hello, welcome back to another video. It's 9:41 p.m. and I've spent the last couple of hours really just watching TikTok. I've been watching TikTok lives of a few people and also did a little live myself. And it's been good. I don't go on it every day. I guess if you were going to ask how often I go on TikTok, it's probably like once a week. No, it's probably a bit more than that. But it's not my daily driver. I've got to say, I use YouTube probably 100 times more than I use TikTok. I've got to say. And people do compare TikTok and YouTube quite a lot, but I really don't think there is any comparison there whatsoever. I think they're very different, and I think you can't really compare them. I do think they're both great, though, in completely different ways. I now have a TikTok, and I also have a YouTube channel, and I really like doing both of them. I just think totally different kettle of fish. Obviously, they share a lot of similarities. They're both video, but they're just different, and that's exactly the way they should be. They shouldn't be the same. They're not the same. YouTube has sort of incorporated a lot of TikTok style elements, or I don't know who did it first. I don't know if it was YouTube Shorts and then TikTok came afterwards, or if it was TikTok and then YouTube Shorts. But they both sort of share some very similar elements to their platforms, to the way that it works. But they still retain some vital differences. YouTube is much more established. And that's because YouTube was founded in February 2005 and TikTok was founded in September 2016. That is an 11-year gap of advancement for the YouTube platform. And in tech, 11 years is quite a long time. Tech develops quite quickly. And 11 years is a lot and a lot and a lot of work going into improving those platforms. Saying that though, I think there's a lot of things that TikTok does a lot better than YouTube. I do think that. But YouTube does have some greater strengths. It's 9:46 p.m. and I'm currently looking forward to tomorrow. Because for me, that is payday. That means we're doing a bit of shopping, as you do. I'm actually going to show you now what's in my basket. Have a look on the screen here. Follow the mouse. Here it is. Here is item number 1. That is corned beef. 14 corned beefs. 340 gram container at a cost of £9.12 per kilogram. I'm going to be spending £43.40 on 14 of those. Next up, Morrison's mild chili powder, 45 grams, £24.22 per kilogram. That'll be £3.27 for 3 of those. Then we have another chili powder, a different one. Morrison's hot chili powder, 47 grams, £23.19 per kilogram. £3.27 for 3 of those. And then we have another chili powder, Indus Extra Chili Hot Powder. 100 grams, £10 per kilogram. £1 for 1 of those. Then we have Morrison's Diet Lemonade, 2 litres, 24.5p per litre, £8.82. and we have 18 of those for £8.82. Finally, we have 36 bottles of Compton Orchard cider, 4% alcohol, 2 litre bottles, £1.5p per litre. That's £75.60 on cider, 36 bottles of cider. So that's Morrison's. The grand total of all that is £135.36. There is, however, more to come, because I'm also going to do an order from Asda. What we're getting from Asda is 10 bottles of Prime Hydration Ice Red Chill, 500 millilitres, for £19.80. 3 bottles of Prime Ice Pop, 500 millilitres, for £5.94. 5 4-packs of 400 grams Asda chopped tomatoes in tomato juice at £1.13 a kilogram for £9. Then we have Asda corned beef, 340 grams. We have 10 of those for £25. 340 grams, and they are £7.35 per kilogram. And we have Just Essentials by Asda corned beef, 340 grams. We have 10 of those for £21.80. They're 340 grams, and that's £6.41 per kilogram. And we have Just Essentials by Asda. Just Essentials chopped tomatoes, 400 grams. 10 of those for £4.30. 400 grams, and they are £1.07 per kilo. Just Essentials by Asda. Just Essentials peeled plum tomatoes, 400 grams. 10 of those for £4.30, and they're £1.07 per kilogram. Then we have Liquid IV Hydration Multiplier Lemon Lime Electrolyte Powder Mix Food Supplements, 3 sachets, £8. It's a 3-pack, and they're £1.33 each. I've got 2 of those. Then we have the same again, but a 6-pack. We've got 2 of those. Then we have a different flavour, passion fruit. 2 of those. Different flavour again, strawberry electrolyte powder. 2 of those. Another strawberry one. This time it's a 6-pack instead of a 3-pack, and we get 2 of those. Then we got a different flavour, again, tropical punch, 3-pack, 2 of those. Then we have more Prime Hydration Ice Red Chill. We've seen that one already. We've seen the Prime Ice Pop already. Final one, Prime Zero Hydration Grape Ice, 500 mils, £19.80 for 10 of those. £3.96 per litre. So that's going to be the shop that I'm going to do as soon as I get paid, so that I am well stocked up. Okay, so if you know me, you know very much that I like reading books. The book that I'm currently reading is this book here, Supersonic. Oasis, the complete authorised and uncut interviews. It's an interview style book. I've been reading it for a while now. I've got to page 344, and I'm very, very, very close to the end. So I think I'm going to finish it off right now. It's only going to take a couple of minutes because I'm really close. Noel. Well, yeah, you'd have to be a dick in the midst of that and not think that this is significant. Even if you wouldn't be pompous enough to think this is a significant moment in popular culture, you would certainly think it's a significant moment in my life. I knew it was significant, but it didn't change my life in any way. 2 days after Nebworth, I was no bigger rock star than I was 2 days before it. I wasn't perceived any differently. The band weren't perceived any differently. I remember it being immediately slagged off in the fucking papers. Some tabloid journalist was going on about the price of food or some shit like that, which is a very British thing to do. Wasn't it great? Fucking hell, what about the queue for the toilets though? Whatever. Liam, it was amazing. It was beautiful. It felt like it was fucking justice. It was us and the world. It was up there with any kind of fucking religion to get them people in that crowd without fucking religion is something. It's a big, powerful thing. Deep, man. Deep but beautiful. I just wanted more of it. I've heard Bonehead bang on a million times. We should have split up. Blah, blah, blah. What for? Do what? Go and be a fucking car mechanic? Let's have a bit of time off. Go and do it all again next year. All them people that were there, or that couldn't get tickets, let's go and fucking play for them next year or whatever. Noel, we should have at least gone away and given the impression that we'd split up. We should have gone away and done a bit of living. A fucking shitload of money was about to fall into our laps. All the royalties were starting to come in from the first 2 records. The tours, Nebworth and Main Road and that kind of thing. We should have gone off and done that thing that rock stars are supposed to do. Bonehead. That was my life. That band was my life. It went above and beyond anything I ever imagined. That was the pinnacle for me. It was like, where the fuck do you go from here? My attitude then was more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. I want more of this. Keep going. Now looking back, I honestly think we should have just went. Thank you, every one of yous, for getting us here. A final bow on that stage. We were Oasis, and good night, you know, and walked off. No, looking back on it now, it did feel like the end of something as opposed to the beginning of something. I had a sense, even at Nebworth, that it was never going to happen again. You couldn't have envisaged it getting any bigger than that. The only thing to be bigger than that would be to do more nights. So it couldn't get any bigger than that. It could just get more repetitive. 4 nights next year, 7 nights the year after. It was right on the cusp of the analog age, going into the digital age. Walking out on that stage that afternoon, there were no mobile phones. It was the pre-digital age. It was the pre-talent show reality TV age. Things meant more. It was a great time to be alive. Never mind a great time to be an Oasis. We were about to enter a celebrity-driven culture. I've always thought that it was the last great gathering of the people of the old age before the birth of the internet and phones with cameras and video phones and iPads and all that shit. I do say it quite often, and I said it then. People think I'm a fucking lunatic. I thought we were going to be the last great rock band. What I meant by that was we did it in the traditional way. It's no coincidence that things like that don't happen anymore, I don't think. I think that the internet and the digital world has taken a lot of the magic out of rock and roll. The biggest music phenomenon was the band that came from a council estate. I just think in the times in which we live, it will be unrepeatable. We should be worried about that, because where's it going to be 20 years from now? Liam. I just wanted it all then, there and there. Liam, I just wanted it all there and then. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted it to happen in one big fuck-off explosion of madness. I loved every minute of it. It meant the be-all and end-all, man. Life or death. I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. It's easy to say that in hindsight we should have gone, right, let's knock it on the head. And do what? Go back to your fucking house and count your fucking money? It doesn't work like that. Bollocks to that. When you score a hat-trick in the first 20 minutes against United, You don't turn round to your fucking bench and go, here you are, let me out of here now, I've done my fucking bit. No, I wish I was that cool back then to have taken a step back and gone, let's just all go our separate ways for a bit. Imagine doing those gigs and then just splitting up. We should have disappeared into a puff of smoke. It would have been fucking unbelievable. If it would happen to me again, knowing now what I should have known then, we would have just gone off stage and said something cryptic and then disappeared for 5 years. Then slowly just made a great album or wrote better songs as opposed to just carrying on and carrying on. But, you know, it was my idea to keep going. I keep on fishing for it because I am an addict. I'm addicted to the thing. That's what shit kickers do. They ride it until the wheels come off. Then they're desperately running around for the sellotape trying to put it back together again. Just because you can't get any bigger or any higher doesn't mean to say you can't keep doing it. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't just stop because you kiss the sky. Give it a fucking love bite. No regrets. Liam, people have asked me before, are you surprised at how big Oasis got? No, I thought it would be a lot bigger. That's where my head was at. Noel, I'd often think, what was it all about? It happened in such a short space of time. 2.5 years from signing off to walking out on that stage. When we got to Nebworth, we'd only just become rock stars. 2.5 years previous to that, we were a bunch of shit kickers. You might think it took a lot of savvy business people saying, we are going to do this and we are going to do that. But there was no smart business moves or anything like that. What happened is just magic. When you say it now, it was so ridiculously simple. You had a band who had the tunes, who were grafters, who came from nothing and wanted it all, were willing to put themselves out there and inspire a generation of people to believe in them. We were the last, we were the greatest. Nothing anybody does could be as big as Oasis. Liam, just pure self-belief, man. Self-belief, not arrogance. Self-belief. Arrogance is someone who turns round and goes, oh yeah, we're going to be the best band in the world, knowing deep down that the tune you're writing ain't even going to get out of the studio. It was pure fucking self-belief. And that was it. It would never get repeated, not because we were greater or better than anyone else, but just because we didn't actually give a flying fuck. We've definitely got a table upstairs with the big boys, whether they like it or not. Noel, I guess if you were to rationalise everything that we ever did, you couldn't say that anybody that was ever in Oasis, me included, was the best in the world at anything. As a lyricist, I wouldn't even come in the top 20. Guitarist wouldn't even come in the top 20. Liam as a singer, not the best. Bonehead as a rhythm guitarist wasn't even the best guitarist in Oasis, never mind the fucking world. Gwiggs, no chance. But when it all came together, in a venue or in a field, it did something that was great. We made people feel something that was indefinable. I thought we were the greatest, and I still do, and that's because of all the elements. Because of Liam and me and the songs and the words and the fans and whoever else was in the band at the time. We made a thing and it was great. I don't consider myself to be that great. I wrote the songs, but to me that is a very small part. That's just kind of like giving birth to a child. This thing goes on and becomes fucking huge because of the people. I do believe that certain songs have written themselves, like Slide Away and Don't Look Back in Anger and Live Forever and Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova. I do believe that if I hadn't written those songs that night, somebody else would have written them somewhere else. Neil Young calls it sitting beside the rabbit hole. And when the rabbit pops up, you're quick enough to grab it by the ears. Keith Richards say they fall out of the sky. I liken it to going fishing. If you are not fishing, you are not catching anything. And if I hadn't have been writing and hadn't picked up my guitar on that particular day, then that song would have sailed on down the fucking stream and somebody else would have written it. Liam, we were properly into it, and we weren't fucking lazy. We grafted like fuck, and we weren't cunts. We took the piss out of people, and we had banter with people, and obviously we got shit back if anyone was funny enough to take us on. It was just a crack. Yeah, we took drugs. We fucking slapped a photographer. All fucking true, but that is it. No, It is not about the songs, and it is not about the fucking clothes and the attitude and the headlines and the scandal. It is about the way that we made people feel. And people will never forget that. Don't ask me to intellectualize it because I don't fucking know. I was only on the stage and in the studio, but people will never ever ever forget the way that you made them feel. Liam, we had a laugh, man. Anyone who says we didn't have a laugh obviously weren't there. It was 24 hours of the day fucking fun. No, if it wasn't a proper fucking laugh, regardless of all the getting kicked off aeroplanes and thrown out of hotels at 4 o'clock in the fucking morning, we wouldn't have stayed together for 18 years or whatever it was. That in itself tells you something. Liam, it was everything and more than I asked for, and I wouldn't have changed a fucking thing. I enjoyed the chaos, I enjoyed the hard graft, all the riches, I enjoyed all the fucking nonsense. No, there was chaos fucking surrounding the band, and right in the middle, it was fucking worse. Whatever the chaos going on, screaming kids and this, that, and the other, in the dressing room, it was worse. There was shit getting smashed up and people fucking pissed, falling over it, and it was great. We didn't have that calm in the eye of the storm. In the eye of the storm was a worse fucking storm. It was pissing down. Liam, the wheels were never on the fucking bus. We were on the bus, but the fucking wheels were rarely on it. No, in the end, when it is all said and done, what will remain is the songs, and you can have an opinion on them for as long as you like. None of that stuff about hotel rooms is greater than the impact that Live Forever had on a generation. None of that stuff about drugs and not turning up for gigs and what was said in the press will ever be as great as 70,000 people singing Don't Look Back in Anger. Liam, we just knew that we were here to take this band as far as we could without turning into knobheads and licking arse and being what all these other fucking clowns had been before us. We had to keep it super fucking real. For us, first of all, and for the real people that are out there. The real people that needed something instead of some fucking soft soap bullshit band. We were a Mike Tyson band, just come in, fucking blazing, knocking everyone out. We were never going to do 10 rounds, and it was never going to get to points. We were just going to come in and fucking have it. No regrets, no fucking regrets. Even the fuck-ups were great. When we fucked up fucking great, and we did it with a laugh. Even the shit bits were great. It was just mega. No. Oasis's great strength was the relationship between me and Liam. It is also what drove the band into the ground in the end. Peggy. Sometimes I do look back on it and wish it had gone in a different way, but it hasn't. It's caused a lot of problems with them too, but it's their lives and you have to just let them get on with it. Liam, I get where she's coming from, because obviously me and our kid ain't got a relationship anymore. But who is to say if we had been a pair of fishmongers, we'd not have still slapped each other with a bit of trout every now and again. I know people in all walks of life that don't speak to their brothers for a long time, and they are not in rock and roll bands. At the end of the day, I weigh it up and I go, did the good times outweigh the bad times? Fucking 100%. I'm happy with that. As far as I'm concerned, I'm still fucking up. I come in with nothing, so if I leave with nothing, even if I leave with 10p in my back pocket, I'm still up, man. It's all good, man. I didn't join Oasis to fucking make lots of money. We did it to make music and whatever comes with that. We were never driven by money. I certainly weren't anyway. It was more about just having a good time and getting in a bubble and playing your music and having a fucking laugh. The money side of things, I don't know how much money we made. I don't know how much money we lost. Didn't care. I've had big houses and I've had small houses. I've had big bar bills. I've had this and I've had that. And it doesn't really matter. I've had good times. I'd rather that than a big bank account. Sitting there going like, yeah, I was in a pretend rock and roll band and I got up to fuck all really. I've got 90 million quid in the bank. Noel. People make the mistake of thinking that the people on the stage are defining something. What if no one turns up? The people who are making it what it is are the people in the crowd. So we can all sit here and suck each other's ball bags about fucking 2.6 million people applying for tickets. But you know, what's great about that is the 2.6 million people. Not anything that we did. It means shit without the people. The people were with us, and I felt that, and I felt quite invincible in feeling that. Really, the people are as important as the songs and the chaos and the nonsense and the interviews and the fucking drugs and fucking this, that, and the other. What should never be forgotten is what the fans did, or how special they made it. The songs are not great because of anything that I did. I only wrote them. They are made special night after night after night, decade after decade, because of the people. When I sing Champagne Supernova on acoustic guitar in a sound check and there are 11 people there, it's good. It's fucking good, but it's not extraordinary. When you are singing it 5 hours later to 12,000 people in Glasgow, that's extraordinary. Not because of anything I'm doing, I'm playing it the same. It's the love and the vibe and the passion and whatever it is, the rage and the joy that's coming from the crowd. If anything, that is what Oasis was. There's a chemistry between the band and the audience. There's something magnetic drawing the two to each other. Liam, we meant every fucking last breath of it. Everything. Every fuck that got fucked. Every fucking swear word that come out of my mouth. Every fucking table that got chucked. Every fucking drink or whatever went up our nose or in our mouth. I meant every fucking minute of it, and I wouldn't change anything. I'd do it all again in a fucking heartbeat, the exact same way. It was a miracle that we even got there. It was everything and more than I asked for. Yeah, we felt untouchable, man. Supersonic, even. Alright, that's the end of this book. Just read the acknowledgements. Simon Halfon's acknowledgements. I'd like to thank Noel and Liam for their support on this project from its inception, initially as a film and now in book form, and all those who contributed along the way. Tim Abbott, Christine Mary Biller, Bonehead, Clint Boone, Brian Cannon, Mark Coyle, Paul Gallagher, Peggy Gallagher, Paolo Hewitt, Johnny Hopkins, Johnny Marr, Tony McCarroll, Alan McGee, Owen Morris, Maggie Moutsikatis, I'm not sure how to say it, Maggie Moutsikatis, Jason Rhodes, John Robb, Phil Smith, Daniela Suave, Michael Spencer Jones, and Debbie Turner. Their time and support is very much appreciated. Additional thanks first and foremost goes to Matt Whitecross, who really exceeded all our expectations in delivering quite simply one of the great rock and roll documentaries. A huge thank you to all the team that made the film. Fiona Nielsen, James Gay Rees, Paul Monahan, Mark Napton, Rael Jones, Arturo Antolin, Hannah Green, Asif Kapadia, Julian Bird and Joe Berry. Many thanks also to Debbie Guider, to Marcus Russell, Alec McKinley, Daisy Blackford, Sarah Mansfield and Kat Killingly at Ignition, to Martin James, to Jill Furmanovsky, to Dan Newman at Perfect Bound Limited, to Tim Bates, John Fowler and Daisy Chandley at PFD, and all the team at Headline, especially Sarah Emsley and Emma Tate. Special thanks to Robbie Elson for his fine editing skills. And finally to Joe Halfton for all his help, and not forgetting the rest of the very special team, Lev, Ira and Anat. Here are all the picture credits. Section 1. Paul Slattery, Retina Pictures, Avalon Red. Kevin Cummins, Getty Images. Dan Callister, Liaison, Getty Images. Courtesy of Paul Gallagher. Noel Gallagher. Kevin Cummins, Getty Images. Tom Sheehan. Peter J. Walsh. Alright, I'm not going to do all of these. Yeah, there is the book. Who is this book actually written by? It doesn't really say who it's written by. Supersonic. Oh, curated by Simon Halfon. Halfon. Simon. Simon. Halfon. Halfon. Simon Halfon. That was a good book, that. I might keep that one. Might read that one again. It's pretty good. My next books now that I'm going to be reading are going to be a choice of this Jim Morrison book, Gordon Ramsay Playing with Fire. That one's pretty good. I've read that before. Flea, Acid for the Children. I've read some of that one before. And James Patterson, The Last Days of John Lennon. I think the next one that I'm going to go for is this one. Stephen Davis, author of Hammer of the Gods. Jim Morrison, Life, Death, Legend. Let's give it a go. Jim Morrison, Life, Death, Legend. Also by Stephen Davis. Hammer of the Gods. Walk This Way. Reggae Bloodlines. Reggae International. Bob Marley. Say Kids, What Time Is It? Moonwalk. Fleetwood. This Wheel's on Fire. Jajuka, Rolling Stone. Old Gods Almost Dead. Jim Morrison. Life, Death, Legend. Stephen Davis. This edition published 2005. First published by Penguin Group USA, 2004. First published in Great Britain by eBerry Press, 2004. Text, Stephen Davis, 2004. Stephen Davis has asserted his right to be identified as the author of this work under the Copyright Designs and Patents Act, 1988. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise without the prior permission of the copyright owners. eBerry Press, Random House, 20 Vauxhall Bridge Road, London, SW1V 2SA. The Random House Group Limited, Reg number 954009. Addresses for companies within the Random House Group can be found at www.randomhouse.co.uk. A CIP catalogue record for this book is available from the British Library. Penguin Random House is committed to a sustainable future for our business, our readers and our planet. This book is made from Forest Stewardship Council certified paper. Printed and bound in Great Britain by Clays Limited, Elcograph SPA. For Jim Morrison, 1943 to 1971. So that meant he lived for how many years? 28. Kata, Ton, Emona, Iai Ex-fan des 60s, où sont tes années folles? Que sont devenus toutes tes idoles? Jane Birkin. Contents. Introduction. Part 1. Jimmy. Chapter 1. The Lizard King's School Days. Chapter 2. Cancel my subscription. Chapter 3. Learn to Forget. Part 2. Jim Morrison. Chapter 4. Backdoor Man. Chapter 5. The Warlock of Rock. Chapter 6. Sunken Continents. Part 3. James Douglas Morrison. Chapter 7. Lord of Misrule. Chapter 8. The Soul of a Clown. Chapter 9. Last Tango in Paris. Epilogue. The Cool Remnant of a Dream. Alright. Introduction. He's been dead for decades, but he's still causing trouble. Jim Morrison was a mesmerizing figure in the American 60s. A rebel poet and godhead in snakeskin and leather. He lived fast, died young, and left a less than exquisite corpse in Paris while hiding out from the law. In his prime, the writers and critics went nuts, trying to do his weird mojo some measure of justice. One called him an angel in grace and a dog in heat. Jim was the greatest American rock star of his era, and one of its most publicized celebrities. But more than 3 decades later, his life and works have yet to yield all their secrets and enigmas. Jim Morrison tried to set the night on fire. As lead singer of The Doors, he was an acid evangelist on a suicide mission to deprogram his generation from what he saw as a prison-like conformity to social and sexual norms. He was a seer, an adept, a bard, a drunk, a bisexual omnivore. Jim styled his band erotic politicians and relentlessly urged his huge audience at the height of the dangerous 60s to break on through the doors of perception, to free themselves from robotic familial conditioning, to seek a higher, more aware consciousness. Doors concerts, excuse me, Doors concerts, throbbing with war dance rhythms and superheated intimacy, were as close to the experience of shamanic ritual as the rock audience ever got. The Doors captured the unrest and the menace that hung in the air of the late 60s like tear gas, and they did it with hypnotic cool. In the 6 years between 1965 and 1971, Jim Morrison wrote 100 songs, recorded 7 platinum albums, wrote and published 4 editions of poems, made 3 films, recorded his poetry, wrote screenplays, and filled dozens of notebooks with verse and notations. He played more than 200 concerts with the Doors. He established himself as a sex icon and the major American rock star of the 60s. He violated all of Puritan America's sexual taboos, and in a frenetic burst of political energy, even threatened the vindictive Nixon administration with his blatant invitations to protest and revolt. Jim Morrison, as it turns out, was much more important than anyone realized at the time. Critically dismissed as a has-been bozo Dionysus before his death, Morrison's poetic visions have stayed on the radio for more than 30 years, and on into the new century. They have become the classic texts of classic rock, reaching out to generations beyond the one that first understood the deepest meanings, the organic unity, and the transcendent qualities of his greatest work. Jim Morrison was the last incarnation of that quintessential late romantic figure, the demonically aroused poet shaking with rage at his world and his contemporaries, a prophet with terrible eyes and rigid features, clad in black leather. He was arguably the major poet to emerge from the turmoil of the legendary American 60s. Decades later, Jim Morrison has materialized as the true avatar of his age. His words are burned into the brains of 3 American generations. The emergency telegram of Break On Through, the visionary cadences of LA Woman, and the mysterious whispered verses of Riders on the Storm. His voice echoes on classic rock stations from coast to coast. His image haunts dorm walls everywhere, emblazoned. Jim Morrison, American poet, 1943 to 1971. The Doors' album sales, as of this writing, are over 50 million units and climbing. Today, more than 30 years after Jim Morrison died, important new revelations are emerging concerning his tumultuous life, his tragic death, and his enduring legend. And the questions about him still linger. Who was he really? Why did he destroy himself? Why was he failed by everyone who knew him? It wasn't all great, being a rock god in the 60s. The tours were primitive and disorganized. The groupies were pretty, but they gave you herpes and the clap. The drugs and alcohol turned you into an imbecile. Your old lady slept around while you were on tour. The critics hated you when you got huge, and suddenly the press that had built you up into a deity began to tear you down. The Doors, at their best, were about as good as rock music ever got. At their worst, they were one of the most pretentious bands on the planet. But no one had a clearer grasp of the complexities and ironies of the age than Jim Morrison. Living the times as he did, in full senses deregulated consciousness, Jim understood the American 60s for what they were. An era of new religious visions, spiritual crisis, political unrest, race riots, assassinations, as well as a rare opportunity for change and reform. The decade's promises were never fulfilled, but some of its goals, such as integration, civil rights, the global village, and the bringing of East and West into closer harmony, are clearly still in process. Jim Morrison hitchhiked along this psychic landscape like a killer on the road, and the Doors' music still has the uncanny power to poison every new class of 9th graders with its dark messages and raw power. What 13-year-old today can play People Are Strange and not hear it as a postcard of comfort from beyond the grave? How many dead rock stars have an annual riot at their tomb? In one of his unpublished spiral notebooks, sometime in 1968, Jim penned his credo in blue ink: "I contend an abiding sense of irony over all I do." Jim Morrison's famous Lizard King persona was a joke, but it was a serious joke, a cosmic put-on. Jim's serial evocation of the American desert and its reptilian underworld was part of his existential drive to include in the experience of life the omnipresence of impending death. In another notebook entry he wrote, thinking of death as the climactic point of one's life. John Densmore, the Doors drummer, who was often frightened and bewildered by Jim Morrison's behaviour, later observed that all the other California bands of the 60s preached the raising of consciousness toward a state of enlightenment, but the Doors' message, he wrote, had been all about endarkenment. No rock singer ever sounded more like he meant it than Jim Morrison. No one else could have released a subversive anti-militarist song like The Unknown Soldier, with its hellacious screams of violence and despair amid the brutality of the Vietnam War. Alone of his generation, Jim's power depended not just on the surge of his poetry, with the blinding charisma of his amplified performances, but also on the sheer, cussed, rebel energy it took to stand up to society and challenge its hypercritical, constipated moral values in a time of dangerous upheaval. Alone of the 60s rock stars, Jim Morrison didn't see his mission as a show. For me, it was never an act, those so-called performances, he said. It was a life and death thing, an attempt to communicate, to involve many people at once in a private world of thought. Jim Morrison took the inherent dread of the American 60s and made it even crazier, more desperate. Then he made it into a joke, and Jim's volatile essence was a rocket destined to burn out. Drugs would destroy the bravest and craziest of the rock stars. Revelation would turn into delusion. When his spiritual drive was exhausted, sapped by addiction, dementia, and legal battles, Jim's body followed soon after. Jim Morrison's tragic death at 27 in 1971 was the last in the sequence of rock extinctions that began with Jim's hero Brian Jones at 27 in 1969 and continued with Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix both also at 27 in 1970. The rock movement never recovered. The surviving heroes would carry on. New ones were born and also would die. But the midnight hour had passed when Jim Morrison flamed out. Those whom the gods love die young. The theatre is dark and smoky. Outside, police sirens scream as the cops tear gas the kids who can't get in. Suddenly, a white-hot light pierces the gloom, and a jellied scream rips open an abyss of despair and fury. The Doors are in town tonight, and Jim Morrison is acting out his epic pathos. The lead singer as an illuminating angel from hell. Looking beyond the lip of the stage, he sees a dark jumble of chaos and disorder as the convulsive young mob of teenagers pulses violently before him. The energy the band is putting out may be awesome, but it is nothing in comparison to what is happening down in the audience, where the chaos is not an act, and often gets much crazier than it does on stage. Jim Morrison's experience of the concert was the inverse of the audience's. In the nightly scenes of mass rapture, anxiety, lust, fear, and joy, Jim learned early on that the real energy in the room belongs to the audience. It's this knowledge that compelled him to document these Bosch-like fantasias for posterity in his film Feast of Friends. There is something awful, deeply moving, and terribly human in the tragical story of Jim Morrison. On the surface, it is a story of how the excess of fame and unlimited freedom ruined a young American poet. Looking closer, it becomes clear that Jim Morrison's early fury and mania gradually evolved into a kind of artistic maturity, one that was more keenly experienced and aggressively lovely, and prophetically fatal. This book seeks to replace the myths and the lies that have overwhelmed the legend of Jim Morrison, with new reporting and a reconsideration of both the known facts and the wild, unsubstantiated rumours. The portrait that emerges in the end reveals a damaged, fiercely loving, compassionate man who overcame his self-destruction through a body of darkly beautiful work that echoes down to us today, with its romantic glamour and spiritual power intact. Mr. Mojo still rising. Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Part 1. Jimmy. Chapter 1. The Lizard King's School Days. The devotion of the greatest is to encounter risk and danger and play dice with death. Nietzsche. Indians scattered. Anyone inquiring more than superficially into Jim Morrison's life immediately realizes that the story of his childhood is crucial to understanding what happened to him later. First, he remained very childish his entire life. Of course, for the rock stars who came to fame and fortune very young, what else was there for them to do? Second, when Jim joined the Doors and began performing in public, he abruptly severed all contact with his family and never saw his parents ever again. Third, his early act was a graphic, pull-no-punches rewrite of the ancient Oedipus legend, in which he sang of killing his father and fucking his mother in front of tens of thousands of fans. Why did Jim Morrison hate his parents so much? Why did he hate himself? How was he able to create such pure American music out of his own anguish? Why did he end up with a crazy girlfriend who was an even heavier character than him, who tried in vain to control him, who may have killed him in the end? How could it have happened that this cool, talented guy, one of the great artists of his generation, morphed into a monster and then immolated himself? The problem with answering these questions is that Jim Morrison's troubled and problematic post-World War II childhood, within the sheltered, close-knit world of military families, has been one of his story's most closely guarded mysteries. His parents, Admiral George S. Morrison and Clara Clark Morrison, have never commented publicly on their notorious firstborn son. Jim's brother and sister have been equally reluctant to speak of their brother. Whether fear of scrutiny or a desire for privacy drives this steely reticence, any inquiries to the Morrison family concerning the late rock star and poet Jim Morrison are parried by California attorneys claiming to represent his estate. The Morrison family's wall of silence has immured Jim's childhood, especially his tense and unhappy adolescence since the day he died. This shouldn't be surprising, since Jim Morrison tried to convince the media that his parents were dead and that his siblings never existed. He probably thought he was doing them a favour. Here's what is known about Jim's first 20 years. His father, George Stephen Morrison, known as Steve, was born in Georgia in 1920 and raised in Leesburg, Florida. The Morrison family was descended from Scots settlers who arrived in America in the late 18th century. The name Morrison is thought by some scholars to derive from the Latin root of Moorish. In Roman times, soldiers from far-flung provinces were moved around to guard different parts of the empire. Thus, Celtic troops from Britain would be sent to guard Morocco, while Moors from North Africa maintained order in Britain. Folklorists say, for example, that the quaint English custom of the Morris dance can be traced to a Moorish antecedent. In this context, Morrison could mean Moor's son. Late in his life, Jim would visit Morocco at least twice, searching for something he was unable to describe to his travelling companions. Steve Morrison's parents were hard-working, God-fearing, non-drinking Southern Presbyterians, and Steve followed the family's traditions of military service and entered the US Naval Academy in the late 1930s. He was a trim young man, short of stature and serious, with an air of quiet authority. With World War II about to begin, his class was hustled through an early graduation in 1941, and Steve Morrison was posted to Hawaii for flight training. Later that year, just before the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, he met Clara Clark at a military dance. Blonde, bubbly, very pretty, and slightly heavy, she was the daughter of a Wisconsin lawyer and political maverick who defended union activists and had run for political office as a socialist candidate. It is interesting that Jim Morrison's maternal grandfather came from the great populist, progressive, socialist strain of American radicalism, a powerful sector of dissent and anger that challenged the two-party establishment from a strong political base in the upper Midwest and produced national leaders like Robert La Follette. After a brief and war-torn courtship typical of thousands of young couples in that dangerous time, Steve Morrison and Clara Clark were married in April 1942. They moved to Pensacola, Florida, where Steve continued flight training before shipping out on a vessel laying mines in the waters around Alaska. Their first child, named James Douglas Morrison, was born in Melbourne, on Florida's Atlantic coast near Cape Canaveral, on December 8, 1943, amidst the great burst of military energy his country ever experienced. He was called Jimmy by his family and answered to that name all his life, at least to those who knew him intimately. His father was soon flying Hellcat fighters in the South Pacific and spent the next 18 months on duty. While her husband was overseas, Clara lived with her husband's parents, Paul and Carolyn Morrison, who operated a laundry in Clearwater, on the Gulf of Mexico. Jimmy lived in his grandparents' house until he was 3, and Clearwater remained the family's hometown of record during Jimmy's childhood. Steve Morrison emerged from the war a decorated Navy pilot and an ambitious officer devoted to his career. His first post-war assignment was in Washington, but determined to rise in the naval hierarchy, he moved his young family around with very little notice as he earned promotions and his assignments changed. Correctly guessing in 1947 that quick advancement lay in the new technologies that were reshaping the world, Steve Morrison transferred into nuclear weapons systems in the period when the hydrogen bomb was being developed at Los Alamos and tested at the White Sands Proving Grounds in the deserts of New Mexico. His new duties required a high-level security clearance that specified that his work was never discussed at home. Obscured by official secrecy, references to Lieutenant Morrison's duties during this period are still heavily censored in copies of his naval records made available to the public. All that is known about this era is that the Morrison family lived in naval housing in the vicinity of Albuquerque. Jim's sister Anne was born there when he was 3 years old. If his sister's arrival was traumatic for the quiet only child, something else happened in New Mexico that left a profoundly vivid impression on Jimmy. Early one morning, the family was driving in the desert somewhere between Albuquerque and Santa Fe. According to Jim, his mother and father were in the car along with his grandparents. At one point, his father pulled off to the side of the 2-lane road, and he and Jimmy's grandfather got out of the car. Jimmy looked up and saw the grisly remains of a very recent head-on collision between another car and a truck carrying some Pueblo or Hopi Indians, scattered on Dawn's Highway bleeding, as he later famously remembered. Dead and injured people were lying in the road, and from somewhere rose the anguished voice of a woman wailing in pain and hysteria. Fascinated by the bloody spectacle, Jimmy tried to get out of the car to follow his father, but his mother held him back. So Jimmy pressed his face to the window, taking in the gory aftermath of the fatal traffic accident. His mother blurted that she'd always heard that Indians didn't cry, but these people were wailing in anguish. Jimmy shuddered and strained to get a last look at the carnage as his father climbed back in the car and pulled onto the road again. A few miles farther, they stopped at a filling station and called the highway patrol and an ambulance. Jimmy was visibly disturbed and kept asking questions. He got so upset that his father finally said, "Jimmy, it didn't really happen, it was just a bad dream." But he never forgot the dying Indians. "It was the first time I discovered death," he recounted many years later as tape rolled in a darkened West Hollywood recording studio. "I'm just this little, like a child is a flower man, whose head is just floating in the breeze. But the reaction I get now, looking back, is that possibly the soul of one of those Indians, maybe several of them, just ran over and jumped into my brain. It's not a ghost story, man. It's something that really means something to me." After this encounter on a desert highway, Jimmy began to wet his bed at night. It drove his mother crazy. As an adult, he remembered going to his mother's bed when it happened and being forced to go back to his room and sleep in his wet sheets. Shame City. He tried to hide it when it happened, but she always found out. Then he started to be afraid to sleep in his own bed at all. Some nights he fell asleep curled in a ball on the floor. The bedwetting may also have been connected to a childhood bout with rheumatic fever, which Jim told his doctor about in 1970. This illness might have additionally weakened Jimmy's heart. If Jim Morrison's trusted lawyer is to be believed, Jimmy was introduced early to sexuality. In 1969, while preparing for the obscenity and lewd conduct trial that could result in a prison term for his client, Beverly Hills attorney Max Fink debriefed Jim Morrison on his sexual history. According to a transcript of a taped interview later conducted by Fink's wife, Margaret, the lawyer, said that he asked Jim why he had chosen to expose himself on stage in his home state of Florida. "I thought it was a good way to pay homage to my parents," Jim replied, taken aback and mindful of the abyss that seemed to separate Jim Morrison from his family. Fink then asked what his parents had done to him. Jim reportedly mentioned the bedwetting trauma, then let slip that he'd been molested by a man when he was a boy. Jim refused to tell Max Fink who had molested him, except to say that it was someone close to the family. When Jimmy tried to tell his mother, Fink claimed that Jimmy said that she had gotten angry, called him a liar, and insisted such a thing could never have happened. Fink said that Jim began to cry as he told him the story and claimed Jim has said that he could never forgive his mother for this. For the record, the Morrison family's attorneys categorically denied that any of these incidents or this alleged behaviour ever occurred. In 1948, the family moved again to Los Altos in Northern California. Here, Jimmy Morrison started public school as a shy and chubby boy who hated getting on the bus in the morning. Cold War paranoia was in the air amid fear of nuclear attack by the Soviet Union. School children of Jimmy's generation were indoctrinated about the omnipresent threat of thermonuclear annihilation and required to practice duck and cover routines during monthly air raid drills, sometimes squatting under their desks, sometimes lining the darkened halls of their school buildings to be beyond the range of shattering glass as phantom A-bombs pulverized their world. Television, viewed on tiny 7-inch black and white screens, made a deep impression on Jimmy. In second grade, Jimmy and his buddy Jeff Morehouse, another son of a naval family, whose wanderings roughly kept pace with the Morrisons, were avid viewers of Dumont's Captain Video and paid up memberships of his fan club, the Video Rangers. Jimmy's younger brother Andrew was born in Los Altos the following year, 1949. Then this fairly typical Navy family's transient wanderings began in earnest. They went back to Washington, D.C. for a year before moving to Claremont, California, where they lived, while Steve Morrison was serving in Korea. Jim attended Longfellow Elementary School. In 6th grade, he was a slightly chubby, asthmatic natural leader, the best kickballer in the school, and president of the student council, which required him to open morning assemblies by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. But then Jimmy got in trouble. He was asked to leave his Cub Scout pack after he refused to follow directions and was unruly with the den mother. In 1955, the Morrisons returned to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where family members recall they noticed a change in Jimmy. He gave up his piano lessons and refused to spend time with the family. Living on the edge of the desert, Jimmy became fascinated with the mysterious, prehistoric-looking desert reptiles, lizards, snakes, armadillos, that scurried around the hot, dry landscape. The horned toads fascinated him, little scaly dragons with flicking tongues and nightmare eyes. He hunted them down, seeking their lairs, reading books about them. Desert reptiles became Jim's personal totem, making dozens of appearances in his notebooks on their way to what became a national fetishization at the behest of the future Lizard King. In 1955, Commander Steve Morrison was assigned to the aircraft carrier USS Midway, and the family relocated again, this time to San Francisco. They moved into a big shingled house in suburban Alameda, where Jimmy began the 8th grade amid the convulsive birth of rock and roll and the epic milestones of juvenile delinquency. Elvis censored on Ed Sullivan, Bill Haley's irresistible Rock Around the Clock, Little Richard's savage jungle rhythms, Fats Domino's Gut Bucket New Orleans R&B, Chuck Berry's clever 3-minute high school anthems, black leather motorcycle jackets, switchblade knives, a James Dean maelstrom of 1950s rebellion amid Eisenhower-era conformity, repressed sexuality, and the political stresses and apocalyptic threats of the Cold War. Poster child. Experts have long observed that some children of military families may be at risk for various social problems and psychological disorders. Military families are called upon to move often and on short notice. There isn't much time to cultivate friendships before the family moves on to the next post or assignment. In the Navy, with the ambitious on-the-move father often away at sea, the mothers did the bulk of the child raising and often had to cope with rootlessness, emotional disorders and alcoholism. Jimmy's family moved 4 times before he was 4 years old, and this lack of stability may have engendered a physical restlessness and a sense of profound alienation that stayed with Jim Morrison for the rest of his life. The adult Jim Morrison often didn't know where he would sleep each night, and he preferred it that way. Even after the royalty checks for Light My Fire started in 1967, Jim never owned a house or rented an apartment, preferring instead to live with girlfriends, crash in motels, or just pass out on the beat-up sofa at the door's office. Discipline was a problem for Jimmy, and the despair of his mother. Resentment on the boy's part was built into the situation. An ambitious officer had to put the Navy ahead of his family. It was the way things were in the services, and the family had to accept it. With his father mostly absent, his mother was the authority figure in the family constellation. She was all he had to rebel against. When his father came home from sea duty, Jimmy would overhear his mother complaining bitterly to his father about him, enumerating all his mistakes, malicious pranks, and fuck-ups. Years later, Jimmy's friend wondered why he liked to throw darts at naked Playboy pin-ups taped upside down on his bedroom walls. When his father was home, the atmosphere was often tense. Steve Morrison was known in the Navy as charming, soft-spoken, forceful, and extremely intelligent. At home, this battle-tested sea officer tended to bark orders at his children. Is it any wonder that 10 years later his son created the Vietnam-era's greatest anti-war song, The Unknown Soldier? Jim's younger brother told interviewer Jerry Hopkins that Clara bossed Steve around at home and was clearly the dominant personality in the family. Early on, the couple had decided not to hit their children, so punishment was dished out verbally, with, in Jimmy's case at least, lashes of guilt and shame added to the standard military dressing down. Andy Morrison said that while this would make him cry, Jimmy took this verbal punishment with dry eyes. Jimmy's behaviour was a family flashpoint, with his mother as the lightning rod and designated scapegoat. In 1969, at a Chaotic Doors concert in Seattle, a drunk and upset Jim Morrison waved the band to a ragged halt, stopped the show, and told the audience, "I've been reading about the problems kids have with their parents. Yeah, that's right. And I'm here to tell you, I didn't get enough love as a kid." Intelligent and articulate, Jimmy also had a dirty mind and a vivid imagination, and he'd often blurt out things in school that got him in trouble. An early pastime was cutting up comic books to arrange Donald Duck and Daisy in sexual positions with new dialogue. When Mad magazine began publishing its surreal parodies and sick humour in 1956, Jimmy was an early subscriber. He read his issues of Mad till the pages wore out, and tried to duplicate the harsh comic screams and outbursts that peppered the texts, driving everyone around him crazy. Jimmy's slouched deportment, extreme lack of eye contact, and sarcastic and insolent attitude drove his parents to distraction. His sniggering and public antics, nose-picking, spitballs, snide remarks, embarrassed the family at Navy functions, and they soon learned to leave him home when they could. Andy Morrison indicated that Jim began to bully his siblings when he was about 13. His brother suffered the most. Andy would be watching TV and Jimmy would lumber in, get him in a headlock, turn him over, sit on his head and fart in his face, or pin him down and let a gob of spit hang over his face. Outdoors, Jimmy would pick up a rock and tell his brother, "I'll give you 10, which meant Andy should start running. The little boy learned quickly that Jimmy wasn't kidding. He would throw the rock. In 1955, the Morrisons were on a ski holiday when Jimmy put his brother and sister on a toboggan and pushed off downhill, aiming for the side of a barn. The sled picked up speed, but Jimmy didn't brake. Faster, faster, his sister started crying. His mother was shouting. A horrified Steve Morrison had to sprint to save his children from injury. Jimmy told his furious, disbelieving father that he'd only been kidding around. Conventional wisdom might nominate Jim Morrison as a poster child for the instability of military families. The lack of roots, the father's continual absence, the mother's uneven discipline, the difficulties that a bright but socially isolated child encountered in receiving approval from friends, teachers and parents, all can be used to explain Jim's urges to rebel in order to get the attention he needed. Yet some observers counter that these peripatetic military families form a larger extended family that often provides a secure enclave for its own and produces flexible, well-adjusted children. Military families often move together, and the women who kept their families going amid such dislocation often forged bonds that survived for years and even for generations. Jimmy Morrison was obviously exceptional, a piece of work, a pistol. No one could really control him. He was a kid with a rocket in his pocket. Early on, Jimmy learned how to push people's buttons to get the recognition he craved. Later on, as his father rose in the ranks and was able to spend more time at home, he reasserted his role in the family with a program of strict rules and discipline, which was deeply resented by both Andy and Jimmy. Okay, good start on that book. Only up to page 13. But a good start. It's 11:30 p.m. I'm currently watching a YouTube video, and I'm just thinking about whether I should try going vegetarian. That would mean I'd have to change my Asda and Morrison's order. Not get all the corned beef. But what can I get instead? That's probably a question for Google or ChatGPT. What is a vegetarian equivalent to corned beef? Vegetarian equivalents to corned beef include seitan, vital wheat gluten, tofu or jackfruit marinated in pickling spices, soy sauce, and beet juice for colour. These alternatives mimic the savoury spiced flavour and dense structure, often used in Reuben sandwiches, hash, or cabbage dishes. Commercial plant-based options are also available. Key vegetarian corned beef alternatives. Seitan. Okay. Gonna look on Asda website and see if they have seitan. Asda website is playing up a little bit at the moment. Had some very unusual glitches occurring. What is that? Oh, customers also viewed. Okay, it's not showing what is there. Aha! The Tofu Company Original Seitan, 225 grams, £10.98 per kilogram. Original tempeh. Question is, does it have to be refrigerated or not? Keep refrigerated. Yeah. I would most definitely give it a go. If it didn't have to be refrigerated. Because I don't currently have a refrigerator. It looks quite tasty. Chicken flavour seitan. Maybe I'll just swap out a couple of corned beefs for that and just try it. See if it tastes good. Seitan is, however, £10.98 per kilogram, whereas the corned beef is £6.41 per kilogram. That's not far off double the price. So maybe I'll just stick to the corned beef. I don't know. Unless there's another suitable vegetarian alternative. The song that I currently have playing in the radio head is shall I try and sing it? If I was a rich girl, oh, I'd have all the money in the world if I was a wealthy girl. I think that's by Gwen Stefani. Yes, it is a song by Gwen Stefani called Rich Girl, and it was released in 2004. 22 years ago. Wow. Now I get to act like I'm an old man. I never thought this day would come. Anyway, it's 11:39 p.m. But for whatever reason, or for no reason at all, I'm not really that tired. I'm not tired. I'm not hungry. I'm not thirsty. Just interested in watching this YouTube video. I guess that's okay. Fingers crossed, tomorrow is going to be just as good a day as today was. Today has been very, 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 very good. So, I should say my prayers and say thank you for another beautiful and brilliant day. I appreciate it. I'm not actually sure who I'm talking to be honest. I'm just kind of talking to myself. Just kind of saying thank you to who? God? The universe? Um, I don't know who. There's a Stevie Wonder song about talking to God. What was that? Stevie Wonder talk with God. Oh, this was a really good song. Uh, when you feel that life's too hard, just go have a talk with God. Have a talk with God. Stevie Wonder. You know what? I'm going to listen to that. I can't play it in the video because it's copyrighted, I think. Is that right? Yeah. Can't play copyrighted music in the song in the YouTube video. But I'm gonna go listen to Stevie Wonder have a talk with God. If you're watching this video, pause the video and go listen to that song as well. It's a great song. It's 20 past midnight. I'm gonna try and get some sleep. It's 2:46 a.m. I'm not sleeping. I don't know why. That's alright. It is what it is. I've been on TikTok for a couple of hours and watching YouTube video for a bit. Good morning. It's 10:07 a.m. Time to get up. Slept fairly reasonably well. Can't remember any dreams. I've just been thinking about getting up and going out and spending some of the money that I got. Because today is payday and I have already got prepared a big long list of things to buy. It may take a little bit of time to convince myself to actually go outside, but I'm sure this will help. Caffeine. Start off with just 2. You know what, I'm feeling frisky. Start off with 3. I think that's 150 milligrams caffeine, if I remember correctly. I'm actually going to get some more of those today when I go do my shopping, which is probably going to be something that I get around to sooner rather than later. I know exactly what I want, and it's very specific. I'm going to try and stick exactly to the shopping list that I made up. What that list is made up of mostly is hydration drinks, corned beef, chopped tomatoes. I'll try that again. Chopped tomatoes, chili powder, and cider. I'm going to get a pretty decent amount of alcohol because I feel like I really need to just let loose a little bit, enjoy myself, have a bit more fun. I've been taking everything quite seriously recently. And it would be good if I could go back to the fun vlog style, singing songs, cracking jokes. That's probably a bit more realistic to do that when I've had a drink. It just seems to be the way it is. I'm ever so slightly more fun when I've had a drink. Usually, not always. So for the last 2 days, I've been counting my miles. On Saturday, I walked 11.3 miles in the day. On Sunday, I walked 12.6 miles. And my goal is that every single day I walk more than I did the day before. So for day 1 and day 2, so far so good. On day 2 I did manage to achieve that goal. It's day 3 and I've got to say already I'm not feeling so confident. I'm not completely certain, if I'm honest, that I can actually go the distance again today and walk for more than 12.6 miles. I might not be correct, and I would like to prove myself that I'm not and show that I can do it. But the way I woke up this morning feeling, I do not feel like I have the same drive that I had, and that's okay. I don't really try to force myself to do anything. I just sort of create these goals as a fun little game to play, competing with myself. It gives me something to do. That's my idea of fun. And I am sometimes quite a competitive person. So it's not that I'm going to stop trying, or it's not that I'm not going to try to walk more than I did yesterday. I think I am going to try and do that. I'm just not sure if I'll be able to. I did feel like I could have done a lot more yesterday, but I already did do quite a lot in those 2 days. I do think I walked more than usual, and obviously that was the point, is to walk more than usual. Okay, so I have a rough idea of how I'm going to start the day today, so that's good. I like within the first few minutes of being awake to have a goal in mind immediately, something positive that I can set my mind on as an accomplishment or an achievement that I can aim to do. And that basically just keeps me motivated and positive. So what I'm going to do today is try and do the majority of the walking that I'm going to be doing to the supermarket and back. It's not a great distance, but I can keep track of those miles. With what I've got planned to buy, it is probably at least a few trips worth of stuff for me to carry in a backpack. It's 0.7 miles there, 0.7 miles back. Here's my little chart tracking my miles. Yesterday you can see that I travelled 11.3 miles. No, sorry. On Saturday you can see that I travelled 11.3 miles. Yesterday you can see that I travelled 12.6 miles. Today, Monday 13, you can see that I've not started yet. As it is 10:25 AM, I've only just woken up. But we're about to change that. It is time to get up, get out, and go. I'm gonna need this backpack. This is my favourite backpack. It's made by Element. Element Skateboard Co. worldwide. Skateboarding backpacks have these straps on the front. That means you can hook in a skateboard And that's why I like skateboarding backpacks. They're functional. I'm going to try and fill this backpack to the brim with supplies, food and drink basically, for the most part. There's a few other things I have in mind that I would like to get, but for the most part I've got a very specific shopping list that I'm going to stick to. Anyway, time to go. It's a fairly nice, fairly pleasant, sunny morning here today. Birds are singing, sky's blue. Yeah, it's good. Here's a bit of blue sky. Look how lovely that is. First two things I'm looking for in Asda are chopped tomatoes and corned beef. One backpack full of however many I can get at the best price that I can find them. This is turning into a pretty budget version. But wait, this is turning into a pretty budget episode of The Apprentice. Team U Apprentice, episode 1. Today, Alan Sugar has sent James to go and find chopped tomatoes and corned beef. Alright, done the shop. Headed back to the house with a big, heavy backpack full of things. I'll show you. Okay, made it back to the house. Got a big old bag full of stuff ready to be emptied out. Shoved some stuff in my hoodie because why did I have to do that? Because the bag was full. Got one fresh item, that is Asda Sweet and Crunchy Tender Stem Broccoli. Boil 4 minutes, serves 2. Chosen with care, quality checked for freshness and taste. D18 Egypt. Broccoli, number 1. In the hoodie I've also got corned beef, ×2. Corned beef, ASDA, Just Essentials, JUSTESSENTIALS, by Asda, BYASDA. 340 grams. Each 1/5 of a can contains energy, ENERGY, 629 kJ, 151 kcal, 7%. Fat, 9.3 grams. Med, 13%. Saturates, SATURATES, 3.7 grams. High, 19%. Sugars, 0 grams. Low, 0%. Salt, SALT, 1.1 gram. High, 18%. Ingredients: corned beef, CORNED BEEF. Ingredients: INGREDIENTS. Beef, BEEF. Salt, SALT. Preservative, PRESVER. Wait, no, I got that wrong. PRESERVATIVE. Sodium nitrite, SODIUM NITRITE. Made with 120 grams of beef per 100 grams of finished product. Warning, extra care has been taken to remove bones, although some may remain. Anyway, you get the point. So, corned beef, everything is going to go on its own little shelf here. This is going to be the shelf for the newer foods. Those two corned beef can go in there. Now onto the bag. The bag was absolutely jam-packed. What we have in here is chopped tomatoes. CHOPPED. TOMATOES. Just Essentials by Asda. JUSTESSENTIALS by Asda. Chopped tomatoes. I'll just keep adding everything in now if it's the same. So another corned beef, 3 corned beef, 4 corned beef, 5 corned beef, 6 corned beef, 7 corned beef, 2 chopped tomatoes, 8 corned beef, 3 chopped tomatoes, 4 chopped tomatoes, 5 chopped tomatoes, 9 corned beef, 10 corned beef. Then we have the multi-pack of chopped tomatoes in tomato juice. Italian grown tomatoes, perfect for your favourite pasta dish by Asda with Italian tomatoes. So these multi-packs can go here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 packs of chopped tomatoes. So that's what I've got from the shops. 4 multi-packs of chopped tomatoes, 10 tins of corned beef, 5 tins of Just Essentials chopped tomatoes. Now, compared to what I actually had on the shopping list, that's not a lot. So I'm going to have to do that exact journey a few more times, if not more. I also walked 0.7 miles times 2, that's 1.4. Okay, so I've made up some tickets for the next few journeys. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 tickets. Some of them will take a bit of multiple trips. This one's got liquid IV hydration, prime hydration, Asda. Ship corned beef times 14. Morrison's diet lemonade times 18. That's going to take like 5 or 6 trips just to do that one, if not more. 5 Just Essentials chopped tomatoes, 10 Asda corned beef, 10 Just Essentials peeled plum tomatoes. This is going to be exactly one backpack, so I can get this one finished off first, I would say. And then this one's a Morrison's one. Compton Orchard cider times 36, Indus extra chili hot powder times 1, Morrison's hot chili powder times 3, Morrison's mild chili powder times 3. I could do all the chili powders in one go. The Orchard cider, that's probably going to take like 10 trips. So this is going to give me a lot to do today. If not for the next few days. I am going to try and endeavour to get it all done today, but might not. Unfortunately, when I squatted down in Asda to get some corned beef from the bottom shelf, I've ripped my crotch on my trousers. And that means I need to, throw these trousers away, put on some other ones. I'm not going to show you because you don't want to see it. Going to take my supplements for the day. 1 multivitamin and 1 magnesium. I'm also going to take another 2 Pro Plus. Ah yes, I just remembered Pro Plus. I've got to add that onto the shopping list somewhere. Okay, I need to swallow these pills. Okay, so I'm going to go do another trip to the shop. I'm actually not going to take the camera with me for this one because it's only got 14%. So I'm going to leave that to charge for this trip. I'll take it on the next ones. Just going to let it get some juice for a while. 1 more trip done. That's 2 trips completed. Okay, so what's in the carrier bag? It's all just this. Prime Zero Grape Ice flavour. They're all going to go on the shelf here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then inside the backpack we've got peeled plum tomatoes. 1, 2, 3. Another prime. 4. Another prime. Then we've got chopped tomatoes, corned beef. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Peeled plum tomatoes. 1, 2, 3. Chopped tomatoes, peeled plum tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, peeled plum tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, chopped tomatoes, corned beef, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then peeled plum tomatoes. That's that. So this shelf is now looking pretty full. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 prime grape ice flavours up there. Okay, so most of the Asda stuff is done now. That's pretty much all the food out of the way, apart from more corned beef from Morrison's and chili powder from Morrison's. So now I'm going to do a Morrison's run. I'm looking for Indus extra hot chili powder, Morrison's hot chili powder, Morrison's mild chili powder, Ship corned beef, Morrison's diet lemonade, Compton Orchard cider, and Pro Plus. So I've done 2 trips so far and I've gone 2.8 miles. It's now 12:08 PM. So I've got to keep up the good work, go out again for another round. Possibly like another 5 to 6 rounds. If I'm going for the cider and the lemonade, I could get quite a lot of those, but it would take several trips to get all the ones that I've got on the list. Okay, so I've got my list in my pocket, ready to go. I'm going to put my phone on charge and leave that here. That's only got 17%. So put that down. Cameron the camera has got 63%, so he's doing all right. I'm going to take the extra carrier bag just in case I need that. Before I head out, I'm going to rehydrate. What has this got in it that hydrates you? Vitamins, potassium, magnesium, and with sweeteners. So it's potassium that hydrates you, isn't it? Okay, trip number 3 is finished. What we got is this one, Lucky Lemonade. Then in the bag, chili powder. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 chili powders. And we got Compton Orchard cider. 1, 2, 3, 4 Compton Orchard cider. Then we got another Lucky Lemonade. That's 2 lemonades, 4 ciders. Then we've got Pro Plus caffeine, 4 boxes. Amazing. That's basically what will fit in one backpack, is those 5 bottles. So basically all I'm going to do now is go do that exact trip again and again and again and again and again until I've got all the cider and all the lemonade that I'm looking for. But first things first, I've just done another 0.8 miles. So I'm going to add that to today's tally. So far today I've done 3.6 miles. What I'm going to do is get up, get out and go again and get another 3 ciders, 2 lemonades. I could try and test myself, give myself some more to carry, get 4 ciders, 2 lemonades, 3 lemonades. I don't know. I don't want to get too much, but I don't want to get too little either. After all the hard work today, I'm going to have a drink on some of the cider and enjoy myself, relax, have a good evening. But I'm not going to do that until it gets to around 8 p.m. So I've got about another 7 hours of exercise to do before I can relax. Okay, time to go, another round. Okay, just got back from trip number 4. Got more cider, more lemonade, more cider, more lemonade. Also got a bunch of hydration sticks and drinks. I'm going to take a little rest now for a second. It's been go all day since I woke up. It's about 1:30 now. 1:30 p.m. So I'm going to relax a little bit. Oh my god, I've been having the worst time. I've been throwing up. It's 3:03 a.m. Just woken up. I think it's fair to say I had a bit of a rough night. I did quite a lot of vomiting. Oh well, better out than in. I do feel better now I've got all that out. Oh well, I'm not going to dwell on it. It's happened now. Better go back to trying to be positive and not give that too much time and attention thinking about it. Just going to get straight back on the wagon. Not drinking wise, I just mean making the vlog rather than just deciding to feel sorry for myself because I've been sick. It was a quick thing, just had to throw up all of a sudden. But I feel alright now. I've got a few hours sleep, probably about 6 hours. Now it is another day, so I've got to start to think about What I'm going to do today, I've been slightly stressing myself out, worrying about, well, what I would describe as not a lot really. And you know what, it is or it is. I should keep it that way. Keep the not a lot as not a lot. So, I guess I didn't manage to walk further yesterday than the previous 2 days, like I'd wanted to. According to this piece of paper, I managed to do 5.2 miles. I'm sure I did more than that, but I didn't make a note of all the travel that I did, because at some point I just sort of stopped counting. Anyway, I could get an early head start this morning, as I'm up so early, 3:30 a.m. I could go out and do a 4.2 miles pretty soon and see if today I can improve on my PB, personal best. If there's any day that I could do it, it would be today, because I have a head start, not getting up at 9 a.m. I am, however, still kind of tired. I'm a bit nervous to actually ingest anything now after throwing up, like caffeine. I don't want to throw up again. If it happens, it happens, though. Like I said, it wasn't actually that bad at all. It actually felt really good to get all of that out. Whatever it was that was inside of me, it obviously wanted to come out. So it's like a major relief, you know. And then I did actually get some peace afterwards. So maybe it wouldn't be too bad if I threw up again. I'm not saying I want to, but if it has to happen, then it has to happen. There's no use trying to avoid the inevitability of something that you're not going to be able to stop whether you wanted to or not. So, I guess first thing on the agenda today is try and talk myself into taking some caffeine and then going outside and doing a 4.2 mile walk. I feel like it's going to take me a while to actually convince myself to do that, considering that I'm a bit fragile and a bit sensitive. I've also got to finish this vlog at some point and then upload it, but I've been seriously putting that off. That's okay, I'll get around to it. I just need to focus on feeling better right now for, I guess, however long it takes. And then once I've got a bit more get up and go, then I can do exactly that. But it could take some time. That's alright, I've got all the time in the world. I keep myself entertained, even if I am just laying here on the bed. I don't feel quite so sick now. I feel okay, to be honest. A little bit better. I might fall back to sleep again. I kind of feel like I might.
I don't actually want to. I'd actually prefer to get up and go for a good long walk. Not sure if I have that in me at the moment. Just a bit drained out, a bit tired out. Understandably, it is 3:30 a.m. But then I have had a pretty reasonable sleep. What should I do? Should I try and force down some caffeine?
Oh my gosh. It's been a very slow start to the day. It's now 4 a.m. I've managed to make it from the bed to the chair, and I've taken 2 Pro Plus caffeine tablets.